The Tea Party and Occupy movements, both groups have dominated the political headlines, demanding a change in the way our country operates.
We are the free! We are the free! Our flag still wins!
Occupiers call themselves the 99%, saying they've had enough of Wall Street's corporate greed. The Tea Party claims lower taxation, smaller government, and less regulation is the way to prosperity.
We are the American people! We are the 99%!
One group has set up camps across the country, sometimes being forcefully removed by police. The other has held political rallies on the steps of nearly every state capitol, with some members even throwing their support behind candidates for president.
When I was younger, this is not what my future looked like.
Two parties with two philosophies on how to change the political landscape in America. Coming up in a Focus 15 event, a first-of-its-kind conversation between both the Occupy Wall Street and Tea Party movements.
Live from the Walb Ballroom on the beautiful IPFW campus, News Channel 15 and the News Sentinel come together to bring you this Focus 15 event, Occupy versus Tea Party. Here's your host, Mark Mellinger.
And welcome. It is great to have you with us for this Focus 15 special, Occupy versus Tea Party. This is both an on-air and online broadcast, so you are going to have a chance to give your thoughts and opinions. Some of you have done that already. We thank you for that. The rest of you, you'll have plenty of chances over the next hour or hour and a half for those of you who are following us online. So tonight it is just what we said, Occupy versus the Tea Party. The members are sitting up here with me. On the Occupy side, our team is Bob, Sarah, and Max. Welcome to all of you. On the Tea Party side, we have Rick, Lisa, and Emory. It should be a good discussion. We're looking forward to getting it going. We'll do that in just a moment. But first, we're also joined tonight by multimedia journalist Sarah Jansen from the News Sentinel. So Sarah, tell us what you're going to be up to.
Well, Mark, tonight I'm going to be standing by with my netbook here, and I'm going to be monitoring social media, Twitter, Facebook, and also my email account to see what everyone's talking about and taking questions and comments to give back to you.
Okay, and if you want to follow the conversation on Twitter, just keep in mind it's OccupyTPChat. That's the hashtag OccupyTPChat. Now, we agreed on 4 topics to cover in tonight's discussion. The first one has to do with TARP. Let me start it here. Whoever wants to jump in first, feel free to do it. Who thinks passing TARP, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, was the right thing to do? Absolutely nobody. Nobody is jumping in. Nobody thinks TARP was the right thing to do. Okay, why not?
Not at all, man.
Hell, and we already have applause.
Basically what we have here is we've got these banksters running around playing fast and loose with everybody else's money. They made some bad bets, they lost the money, and then they come back to us with their hands out, and we're supposed to feel sorry for them as if we're responsible for them.
What about the argument that the government was just doing what was necessary to prevent another depression?
I don't see why you need to bail out those particular firms. If you've got the funds together in the same place already, you can do the job of a bank. You can create a new bank. You don't need to prop up the old banks that have already been committing crimes, already been taking advantage of the poor, of people in this country, people who are just trying to live in houses and have mortgages. They're taking advantage of people, and you know, we can create alternative institutions instead of injecting all of the taxpayers' money back into the old ones that have already done us wrong and proven that they can't regulate our economy for us.
All right, this is supposed to be a free-flowing discussion. Somebody from the Tea Party side, step up.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that you can't take the citizens' money, the taxpayers' money, and put it into failure. And you can't prop up companies that have failed with taxpayers' money. A firm should succeed or fail on its own. They should not be bailed out, you know, with other people's money based on their failures, because that encourages more failure, and it also robs the people of the tax revenues that can be used and should be used for other causes that are legitimate constitutional causes for our taxation.
What about the argument, though, that this was such a potentially catastrophic event, that all these financial institutions that were bailed out touch so many other sectors of life, that the government was just doing what it needed to do, both the Bush and Obama administrations, to stave off perhaps another decade like the Great Depression?
Well, as we noticed, no one in the audience agreed with the idea of the bailout. It just proves that there's no bankers from Goldman Sachs here tonight. But as far as the belief that we had to have this bailout because if we didn't, it would flatten and pancake the entire economy. The reality is that we could have had a contagion on the bond crisis that would have occurred, and we could have preserved the integrity of the bond system, and yet at the same time taken those bad actors, whether it's Goldman Sachs, Morgan, all those different Wall Street brokerage houses that created and engineered this disaster, and we could have done what we should have done, which was take their entire book net and written it to zero. We should have put them through a structured bankruptcy like we did General Motors. There's no justification for allowing the people who caused the economic crisis to themselves have the greatest profitable year in 2009 that they had ever had. So not only did they blow up our economy, we bail them out, and then in turn they take tremendous amounts of those billions of dollars and give it to themselves as bonuses.
This is the way Wall Street operates, some people would say. Bob, Sarah. By the way, what Sarah is doing there, for those of you who don't know, she's saying, I agree with you. That is, I mean, this is what the Occupy movement does. You have hand signals.
Exactly.
Right?
Disagree. So.
Okay, that's disagree. All right, I'm learning this as we go along.
And then you can tell us to stay on point if we wander and get off topic.
Okay. All right, thanks for educating me on that. Well, Bob, you chime in here. I know you feel pretty strongly about this.
Well, I mean, I think we all feel that our government has basically given in to a swindle. I mean, these financial actors have controlled our government for a long time, and you know, TARP's nothing new, in my opinion. It's a continuation of an old practice. 1982, there was a savings and loan. Well, what led to the savings and loan crisis? I mean, Reagan passed the Garn-St. Germain Act, which basically eliminated deposit caps, so banks weren't required to hold as much capital. And when you have those types of pullbacks in what was once sound regulation, then you kind of lead the market to crisis. The market floods in and acts accordingly. So I think TARP is a continuation of a bad practice.
Would you guys agree with that? Emory?
I would add even more to that and say that we were led through fear-mongering as a need for TARP. We were told that if it didn't happen, it would be a big crash.
Well, what do you think would have happened without it?
Well, the same thing that did happen. Absolutely nothing, because most of the money that was allocated to TARP has not even been spent. Most of that money, nobody knows where it is. Nobody knows what happened. You know, where it's going.
Much of it was used to recapitalize.
Yes,
the banks.
and there was not a crash like we were led to believe. So that's my main point.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, if you believe that these institutions that were propped up by this money, and I mean, there's another bailout that most people don't really talk about, which is from the Federal Reserve. I mean, trillions of dollars were spent on top of this congressional money. But, I mean, if you believe that the economy are these few actors, then yeah, I mean, you feel like, well, the economy is just going to implode. But I think if you think the economy is made up of more than just those few firms, there's really, I mean, hardly an argument to prop them up.
I think what Bob's referring to, there's the $16.1 trillion that these banks got through the Federal Reserve, which is outside of the Troubled Asset Relief Program that was voted on by Congress. They basically just went to the Fed behind closed doors and got this money in secret. And this is at a time when the gross domestic product of the United States as a whole is $14.5 trillion. So $1.5 trillion in excess of that is the amount that they're secretly handing out to these big banks without us even knowing about it. And this is at a time when we've got 46 million people living below the poverty line in this country.
Was this unconstitutional?
Yes.
Does it fit under the proper and necessary clause to protect the general welfare? No?
No.
Lisa?
I don't think there was really any evidence that we actually needed TARP. They didn't provide us with any evidence. They just basically said it and did it. And I think the thing that's the most important on this issue with regards to Tea Party versus Occupy, I think that we are on the same page on this. I absolutely agree with everything that you said. You're 100% right. The problem is that and I think this is a purposeful thing by the government, is that they have refocused what the real issue is. The evil that caused this is not capitalism. Capitalism doesn't do this. The Constitution didn't do this. The Constitution and capitalism
Who's saying
would
capitalism
not have
and the
allowed
Constitution did do this?
They did not do this, and let me tell you why.
Who's saying that they did?
Well, let me tell you
I
why.
haven't heard anyone say that.
Because part of what the discussion has been is that, you know, the bailouts gave capitalism a bad name. That, you know, capitalism is all for the bankers, and just to give money to the bankers and give money to the 1% and the rich. And that's not the case. Capitalism would have allowed those companies to fail, and that's what should have happened. But I promised real quick. The other thing is that, you know, the reason that this happened is not because of capitalism, but because of the government. The government is the one that did this. The government, first of all, as Bob said, this was a swindle, and I couldn't agree more. But the swindle was set up by the government. The federal government did this. First with the repeal of Glass-Steagall, which I know we agree on. I know that's one of your that's what allowed the banks to merge together to become these big conglomerates. And then they did the Community Reinvestment Act to pass out mortgages to everybody without really any kind of guidelines.